If you understand this time of supply, you will understand what date the percentage has to be considered. Once the goods are transferred to one person to another person, then the time of supply will commence. There is a different kind of time of supply in case of goods and in case of services. Open market value. First one is what? OMV. These are all your theory questions. Two things are there. One is normally when you are usually paid tax. That is the one. And second one, when the returns are made. A warm welcome to and all. This is your other sir here, lecturing Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence. And now we are in the session 1 of your topic called Indirect Tax. Indirect Tax, we are doing Unit 6, Time of Supply. What do you mean by time of supply? Why we require this time of supply? In today's session, you will understand better what is time of supply. Because you want to calculate tax, you have to pay tax. Your tax liability will arise when exactly the time of supply says, whether it is a invoice date or payment date or supply date. This has to be learned and this has to be understand when is the time of supply for tax calculation. In today's session, we'll go in detail. We'll go for the next slide. The agenda is very simple. Concept along with meaning. Now, under the concept, we have time of supply. So, what do you mean by time of supply? Now, again I'll repeat, what do you mean by time of supply? Now, under time of supply, it is very simple topic actually. Now, just assume that you ordered in the month of January, or else you checked the goods in the month of January, and then when you collected your goods in the month of February, and again after collection invoice has to be prepared. Your invoice is made in the month of March and you made payment in the month of April. See, when did you order for the unit or product? It is in the month of Jan. And when did you collect your goods? In the month of Feb. When the invoice is made? In the month of March. When the payment is done? In the month of April. Now, all these information we have Jan, Feb, March, April and everything. Now, as per this, all the information we have, but how to calculate tax? Just assume that in the month of January the tax was 4%, February it was 4.5%, and March it was 5%, and at the month of April with a new budget now it is 6%. Just assume that every month if percentage, normally it will not change, just assumption if it changes every month. Now, what percentage we should consider? Again I will repeat, out of these four, what percentage we should consider for your bill? Now, should they go for 4% or 4.5 or 5% or 6%? What percentage they should charge as a GST in your calculation? That is a confusion everybody have. Should we go for 4, 4.5, 5 or 6? If you learn time of supply, you will understand which one has to be considered. Hope you are clear. If you understand this time of supply, you will understand what date the percentage has to be considered. Now, hope you understood what is time of supply. Time of supply means under time of supply, you will get to know which is the perfect date or month should be considered for your GST percentage. Now, we're done with all this. Your time of supply topic is done. Now, your basic you have understood. Now, we'll go for meaning and we have certain rules and regulation. We will go for that. Now, under time of supply, we have two things. One will be goods another one will be services. There is a separate rules and regulation for goods, and there is separate rules and regulation for services. Now, in case of goods and in case of services. Now, what goods happens, like we have forward charges, reverse charges, as well as the vouchers also. Again, I'll repeat: forward charge, reverse charge, vouchers, and we have continuous supply also. What is continuous supply? Your electricity. Electricity will be what? Continuous supply. Your gas, LPG. LPG also comes under continuous supply. So in the pipeline, they will be giving the LPG this thing. So it will be considered as continuous supply. It is not one-time supply. Others, you have vegetable vendor, so every day you are supplying vegetables. Those are called as continuous supply. We will understand what is forward charge, what is reverse charge, what is voucher, and what is continuous supply. So we have bifurcation, goods and services. Everything we will understand one by one. Now we'll go for the meaning. Today's session is all about theory topic. We'll wind up as soon as possible. Next session will go with problems. Now, the liability to pay the goods. See, the liability, the tax has to be paid. Goods and services, tax arises only when supply has been made. Unless and until you make the supply, the tax liability will not arise only. Now, the time of supply fixes the point when the liability has to be discharged. Once the goods are transferred to one person to another person, then the time of supply will commence. The liability will transfer to one person to another person. The time of supply is a time when supply of goods and services is treated as being made under GST law. It is important to determine the time of supply because taxable person should charge GST at the time when the supply is made and deemed to have been made. Normally what happens, whenever the supply has been took place, same time the tax has to be calculated. But sometimes what happened, supply is done in the month of Jan but invoice made in the month of April, almost after 3 months. After 3 months the rate will be different. So because of the changes in the rate, there will be a confusion that they should go for this rate or they should go for another rate. Now, the meaning, the continuation of your meaning in this, a supplier becomes liable to account for GST once the tax point has occurred and must include it in the return covering the period in which it falls. When it is liable, the liable, it is nothing but once the GST calculation begins, like account for GST once the tax point has been accrued, and must include it in the return covering the period in which it falls. The time of supply differs from supply of goods and supply of services. There is a different kind of time of supply in case of goods and in case of services. Now, this is because goods are tangible and physical movement, removal or transport, whereas various. See, why there is a difference between goods and services means, like you are selling computer, that is what goods. Now, you are selling computer means what happens, there is a physical form you have to transport from one place to another place. And other than goods, just assume that you are selling any software, have to carry that software and give it to somebody. No, everything goes through online. Otherwise, you have a CD, if you give to CD, that will be copied, our pen drive, our mail, our Google Chrome. From that you can transfer from one person to another person. Others, I told you, electricity. Will they come and carry electricity everywhere and they will give it to you? No. Water, they will come every house, they will give. That is a physical supply, goods. But electricity is service. Service, from the place where they are sitting, from there only the receiver will connect and receives the services. So The goods we call it as tangible involve physical movement or removal or transport, whereas services are intangible that involves performance. See, there is no physical movement in the services, but we have performance. Hope you are clear? Yes. So these two we call it as meaning of your time of supply. And important terminologies comes under time of supply. Important terminologies comes under time of supply. Now, open market value. First one is what? OMV. These are all your theory questions. Which is the full value in the money payable by an unrelated person as its sole consideration at the same time as the supply under inquiry. What is the open market value? Means just assume that you have your close friend in the market. It is normally it is available for 10,000. In the market it is available for 10,000. For your close friend you have given it for 4,000. So what is the difference? Difference is 6,000. Whatever tax, just assume that 4% tax, it will be 400. If it is 4% tax, it will be how much? 400. Now, but on 4,000, if you calculate 4%, it will be 160. What is the loss to the government? Almost 240 rupees loss to the government. What is the loss to the government? 240 rupees loss to the government. So, this is a case, the government will go for what price? Open market value. Sometimes if you are cheating to the government by selling at lesser price or showing the bill only 4,000 but you sold for 10,000, then the government will go for open market value to reduce all these problems. Now, supply of goods or services are both are like kind and quality, means any other supply of goods or services are both made under similar circumstances that in respect of the characteristics, quality, quantity, functional components, materials and reputation of the goods or services, both first mentioned is the same, are closely or substantially resembles that supply of goods or services. Clear? Yes. Time of supply of goods. In this, as per section 12, what it says. Time of supply of goods as per section 12, what it says. This is all theory. Maybe it is little boring for you, but remember for examination, these are your 5-mark questions. Now, the liability to pay the tax on goods shall arise at the time of supply as determined in accordance with the provision of this section. When the goods is supplied, then only we consider as time of supply. The time of supply of goods shall be the earlier of the following dates, namely, so when we consider as time of supply earlier of these two, the date of issue of invoice by the supplier or the last day on which he is required under subsection 1, subsection 31 to issue the invoice with respect to the supply. So normally what happened, the time you raises invoice, the date will be considered as time of supply. Or if the invoice is not made and there is an agreement called within 1 month you are supposed to send, end of your 1 month will be considered as time of supply. Then the date on which the supplier receives the payment with respect to the supply. Before payment only I have received, before preparing invoice only a collected payment, that is also called as time of supply, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier. Remember, there are two things. I'll give you an example. Your invoice is made on January 1st, January 17th. So before preparing invoice only, they are very close to you, they have given payment itself. Payment collected on January 10th. What is your time of supply? In this, January 10th is your time of supply. Hope you are clear. Now, but there is a condition. What is the condition? If your received payment is less than 1,000, remember, if the payment is received up to 1,000 or less than 1,000, then we don't consider payment. Again, I am repeating, if the payment you collected is less than 1000 or equal to 1000, then will not give importance to payment, will give importance to your this one, your invoice made. Hope you are clear? Yes. And the next point, we have explanation. For the purpose of clause A and B, supply shall be deemed to have been made to the extent it is covered by the invoice, or the case may be the payment. Sometimes invoice or sometimes payment. These things you will understand better when we go for the problem. Now, for the purpose of class B, the date on which the supplier receives the payment shall be the date of which the payment is entered in his book of account, or date credited to his bank account. Payment, it is not only that he should come and give it to you. If you transfer to your account, that that moment also we call it as time of supply. And we have the third point, it is time of supply of goods, section 12, continuation. In case of supplies in respect of which tax is paid are liable to be paid on reverse charge basis, RCM, the time of supply shall be the earlier of the following. In case of RCM or in case of reverse charge basis, which will be considered as time of supply. Now, the date of the receipt of goods, first point. The date of payment is entered in the books of account, second point. The date immediately following 30 days from the date of issue of invoice. So, in case of reverse charge method, which will be the time of supply? Receipt of goods or the payment entered in the books, or exactly 30 days from the date of invoice is made. Whichever is earlier will be considered as time of supply. Next session we'll do problems on these things, forward charge and reverse charge method. We'll work out problems on this, you will understand better. And the fourth one, in case of supply of voucher, voucher will go in detail. Now, by supplier, the time of supply shall be the date of issue of voucher or date of redemption of voucher. Remember, the voucher is very important topic. So, with example, I'll explain you while doing problem. Next session, without fail, please attend. Why? Because you will understand what is forward charge, what is reverse charge, what is voucher, everything you will understand better. Next, the time of supply of goods in case of section 12, the fifth point, where it is not possible to determine the time of supply under the provisions and subsection 2, 3 and 4, the time of supply. Sometimes what happens, you are not able to find out the time of supply. In those cases, where periodical return has to be filed to be the date on date which such return is to be filed, or any other case be the date on which the tax is paid. Two things are there. One is normally when you are usually paid tax, that is the one, and second one when the returns are made. Out of these two, whichever is earlier should be considered as time of supply. Hope you are clear? Yes. Please take screenshot. So this is the meaning of time of supply. The second part of your meaning and important terminologies. Time of supply of goods, time of supply of goods section 12, 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 and a fifth point. So this is all about your today's session. Hope you understood about the time of supply. Without fail, please read out all this. You will get notes in your Google Classroom. Please read and get good marks. Thank you.